Our topic du jour today is we need to talk about the NARA mandate. And with us is our in-house records management expert, Mr. Paul Olenick. Paul, maybe do a quick hi to our government colleagues who's watching.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Olenick, and I'm one of the directors of product strategy for AvePoint.
Awesome. So first and foremost, I'm sure for folks that are watching, especially in the U.S. public sector, everybody knows about the NARA mandate. But for those that are not, Roxy, why don't we get a Cliff Notes version of what this is and why it's important?
Yeah, I think, Doug, it's important for a number of reasons. Specifically touching on NARA, with the government records directive that came out and that's, fastly approaching, governments really need to take into accountability how they're retaining these emails and how they're retaining these documents and how they're just retaining their basic communications between their employees and their senior level executives. So this mandate really sets the precedent of what direction we're going in as really a nation and how we're retaining our records and how we're really being cognizant of those interactions.
Now, speaking of the significance, I know, Paul, you talk to a lot of government customers. So what are some of the questions that you've been getting around the NARA mandate and especially the journey towards a deadline, which I believe is December 2019? Is that correct, Paul?
It is. There are a few different time frames. So there's a separate one for managing email. There's a separate one for managing permanent records. And then thirdly, there's a date in 2022 when NARA will simply no longer accept any transfers for temporary or permanent records in non-electronic form. So there's sort of a few milestones. And the main question that I really see customers saving themselves is, how am I going to do this, right?
Now, forgive me for my lack of knowledge here. I know you guys know more than I do around this. So in essence, what this mandate says, as far as I understand and stuff that I've been reading is, look, by those certain milestones, there can't be paper copies of these records anymore. Is that correct?
That's right. So you can no longer take a bunch of boxes and ship them over to NARA. They're moving into the 21st century or maybe the 20th century, and they're only going to accept them in electronic format from here on out.
And I'll even go, Doug, even just to take it a little further, if you want to throw in text message, that's also no longer acceptable as well. So coupled with the paper copies, we're trying to move in this direction where we are more secure, where we're actually really paying attention to how we're retaining these records and in what form.
Well, one thing I don't understand, you mentioned emails. Emails are digital, right? They're not paper copies. Are you saying emails gets printed and stored?
I'm saying that some of my customers do print and store their emails. Absolutely. What about you, Paul? What are you saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So essentially, no more paper for a bunch of reasons, but more importantly, it's more secure, it's more safe, and searchable, all that good stuff. So to Paul's question, how can customers prepare then? Especially a lot of our customers are invested in the Microsoft platform. So Roxy, what advice do you typically give?
Yeah, for me, I like to tell customers to think about a number of things. One, what role their employees are going to play in this new direction. Two, what does success look like to them as an organization per their policies that they're tackling onto this mandate? Also, what approach are they going to take? Are they going to look at the capstone approach or are they going to formulate their own approach? And then fifthly, what type of training needs to be implemented to make sure that their employees are playing the critical role in the direction that we're going as a nation?
Awesome. And Paul, with respect to their current Microsoft investments, what guidance do you typically provide?
Yeah, I do want to piggyback on Roxy's point, and it's something I've learned a lot from your sessions, Dux, is it's always going to be a people, process, and technology solution, right? So there's not going to be some silver bullet. But with respect to Microsoft, really what folks are going to want to make sure is that not only are they able to provide electronic permanent records, but that they're going to be in a format that has been mandated by NARA as well. So essentially you get an electronic copy of this document as well as a manifest that essentially describes all the properties or metadata about that content, and it's packaged up in a very specific way. So what you need is the ability to find all those permanent records and identify them, a way to capture them, and a way to export and transfer them in a way that is compliant with NARA standards. And out of the box, with most solutions, and Microsoft included, in terms of a sort of base platform, you're not going to get that out of the box. You're going to need some either custom code or some outside help from an ISV type vendor.
So I know some customers, they still do have records technology they use, right? I mean, there's technologies like HP Trim, or I would say Documenta. Certainly they can still take advantage of this, no?
They can, as long as they have that ability to export in that NARA format and then ultimately transfer it to NARA.
Got it. And then what about things like file planning? Again, I know the records management process, there's a certain set of criteria and requirements, things that they should do, but kind of going back to leveraging their Microsoft investments, right? So how does that work if they need to fulfill things like file plan and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I'd say it depends whether they are on legacy or on-premises SharePoint, for example, or whether they've started to take advantage of the cloud and Office 365. And there's a lot of detail that we could get into, but broadly, these things are very difficult in SharePoint on-premises. There is really not a concept of a file plan. There's really not a concept of records management as such. There are information management policies, there is metadata. You can kind of cobble something together, but it requires a tremendous amount of effort and management and subject matter expertise that normally a records manager is not going to have. That's on premises. With Office 365, Microsoft has made tremendous leaps forward and investments in records management, where it's really built around this concept of Office 365 retention labels, which have the power to, you can kind of set up all of your tags or classifications or labels, and they can be applied across your environment and all the services inside Office 365, sure, like email, like documents, like
OneDrive, SharePoint, yeah.
Exactly right. So there's a lot of power in that. I would just caution them to make sure that they can really fulfill that full life cycle as it relates to those NARA mandates, because what we're finding is that, especially for customers in regulated industries like federal government customers, that the native tooling is not enough. In fact, Gartner released a report in September of last year that basically said just that, hey, these are great new features and tools in Office 365, but those regulated customers are going to find that they need outside help from vendors or custom code to really meet those standards.
I mean, let me get back to your point around labels, right? So Roxy, you raised something that kind of stood out to me, is around text. So for example, I mean, these days people communicate not only through email, but they do instant messaging, right? Now Teams, obviously, it's great. And the good news is Teams being a part of the Office 365 family, and we can apply these retention and labeling as well, then that can ease up that burden, especially for those types of communications.
Absolutely. I just want to jump off the wall after hearing you say that, because it is just that exciting. I mean, our engineering and product groups are really taking this into consideration when we formulate our products for these government customers who are in the GCC environment or GCC high environment, where you can apply these same policies to the technologies in their environment to make that a seamless experience. But to Paul's point, it's a teamwork. You need partners, you need the technology, you need the customer success managers, the employees, the executives. You need everyone to really come together to really understand how we are better together.
All right. Awesome. So look, this has been very informational and educational, not only for me, I'm sure people watching this. Before we wrap up, and again, trying to meet those mandates, what are some of the one key advice and takeaway you have for our viewers, especially in the federal U.S. government, in making sure that not only they meet this milestone, they meet this mandate, but post that have a good and healthy records management strategy? Roxy?
No, Paul, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was so excited about my answer to your question. Yeah, I think actually the biggest piece of advice that I could give is, the records team and the legal team, they know what they need to do. Where I see things start to break down is the partnership between records management and IT. So really having a clear plan that they can communicate to IT about where they need support and make sure that they are, in partnership, and then of course, teaming up with your customer success agents and change agents as well to make sure that that is kind of implemented across the environment. So as much as I'm a tech guy, we keep coming back to this point that it really is a process and people and technology problem.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Paul said, really awareness and training. You won't imagine, Doug, how many times I'm in the field with the end users and they have no idea, A, the records management policies, and then B, kind of what technologies are being made available and what policies and settings are being made available for them to stay in compliance. So it's really just partnering with the organization to understand kind of that basic level awareness for their employees, and then also implementing the training from there on so they can carry it out on their own.
Awesome. In the directive is called the M1218 directive, correct?
It is.
All right. Well, tell you what, if you guys are still watching up to this point, we're going to give away a t-shirt. If you're in the U.S. federal government, not that t-shirt's nice, but we have this t-shirt. It's called I have 99 problems, but M1218 is not one of them. All right. And you should see this t-shirt right now. We'll get it in there. So all you need to get this t-shirt, as you're watching this video, tag somebody. If you're watching this on LinkedIn or on our blog, tag somebody that you know so they'll watch it. If you do that, we'll reach out to you, get your address, and we'll mail you this t-shirt as long as you're in the US. All right. So other than the t-shirt, I know everybody loves that t-shirt. We also have upcoming workshops with Paul and some of our experts around NARA mandate and records management. You should come and attend. When you click on the link, you'll see all the dates. You can sign up. It's free, and we have our colleagues from Microsoft, Roxy's teams participating as well. So I'm sure, Roxy, you're going to invite your customers to come, right?
Absolutely. I'm inviting all 8 of them, and they'll be there.
All right. And then, Paul, I'm sure you got all the content all lined up already, and we're good to go?
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thanks again for this this episode of FEDUp. Roxy, Paul, I'm sure people have a lot of questions. And how can people reach out to you guys if they have more questions?
Yeah, you can find me at Olenick SP on Twitter.
And you can find me at Roxy and Debu Madhu on Twitter as well.
That's right. And they're both on LinkedIn, so you can track them down.
Absolutely.
So with that, have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.